Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux taking a look at race number 8 at Woodbine on Kings Plate Saturday. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 2 King Edward. We're going a one-turn mile on the E.P. Taylor Turf Course. $200,000 is the purse. The horse to beat is on the outside. Philo D'Ariana won this race in 2022. It was a pretty strong performance because the question going into that race was the mile. It's been interesting. They've tried mile races with him since then with varying degrees of success. I wonder if he's slightly better sprinting, but he is in very good form.
Yeah, you talked about his mile efforts since then. 2023, we saw him second in the poker behind Emmanuel for Todd Pletcher, and then a disappointing performance in the following effort. But it was the Kelso at Saratoga, and we know who won that, Casa Creed, who has just been a really tough horse. But to see him kind of kick his campaign off at Woodbine, at least he kept that record intact, 4 for 4 over the turf course up there. He's going to have to stretch out in distance here. And to me, Dan, probably the deserving favorite. I did feel like 4 to 5, though, was a little light on the morning line.
His game is speed, and we're going to take a look at the Timeform US pace projector, and not surprisingly, he is expected to make the lead. But War Bomber, who won this race last year, likes to be close, and it's hard to imagine War Bomber allowing the favorite to get to an easy early lead. I would expect War Bomber to make a strong challenge on the turn entering the long straight, and maybe it sets things up for someone else.
Yeah, and it certainly could. There's a fair bit of horses that like to close in here, and some of them have been more successful than others. But like the King is a horse that likes to sort of split his fields mid-pack, and you can see him here. He's just about there on paper, mid-pack, late run. We know what Ironstone might be in the same trip as well as Cruden Bay. He's the closer, in my opinion, through and through. So it'll be interesting to see if they let the 8 get away here early. I think that's really going to dictate the race.
Cruden Bay just looks like a really late developing type who has come into his own this year at 5. He's 2 for 2, including this victory in the Connaught Cup. Now, he received a very nice closer's ride and trip. The pace was very fast. He was able to save ground most of the way. When he eases off the rail, he's able to find clearance without being impeded. And he comes with a good, strong run to run down War Bomber, with Ironstone finishing 3rd. A nice late rally for Cruden Bay, but I want to give War Bomber credit as well, because it looks like Cruden Bay is going to run right by, and War Bomber finds a little more right here.
He does. He's gritty to the wire, I think, in terms of Cruden Bay, and those 2 wins now, 2 for 2 in 2024. Similar trips. Has been towards the back of the pack. Well-timed rides by Sofia Vivas to get him up. It was obviously closer last time out, but considerable step up in competition as well. But you mentioned War Bomber hung around. Ironstone tried to close with the top 2 in that field. Were much the best, and now he's going to get that additional furlong here, and I don't think that hinders him at all. It does give him a little bit more time, but again, he's a little pace dependent with that deep kind of closing style.
Ironstone is cross-centered in the Bold Venture. You can make the argument he's slightly better on the synthetic, but he sure ran well on the Connaught Cup. And if you want to make the argument that ground loss was a major factor in that race, he had to go the long way around while the winner saved ground most of the way.
I could go either way here. I'm very curious to see what Willie Armada is going to do, because I agree. I think his synthetic numbers are just a tad better, at least what we've seen now as a 5-year-old. But his turf performances, the 1-2 back was a good effort. That was at the mile distance, and most recently 3rd, as we saw in that replay moments ago. It's really, if you look at the other race, do you think that there's lone speed in there? Is he just going to be battling for the minors? And here, is he going to get the mid-pack trip and maybe can get a bigger share, grade 2 versus grade 3? Either way, I think regardless, he's a horse in either spot to use underneath. I don't know if I could use him on the top spot, just because it's been a little bit since he's won, and he hasn't won a stakes race in quite some time. This is a graded stakes race, but you can see very consistent so far in 2024.
Wicked Django, the number 3, is the fastest Timeform US late pace rating, and he's been in against some pretty tough competition on the synth. He faced Platinum Prince, who of course won the plate last year, and Wicked Django, who's a late runner, was probably up against it from a pace standpoint. When you let Platinum Prince go 48 and 4 to the half, it's hard to make up ground, but this guy was trying hard in the stretch. He needs a setup. Maybe he'll get it here, but the question is turf. Is he as good on turf as he's shown on the all-weather?
And he's going to have to cut back a little bit as well. And I think the big thing with that in mind, it's 2 turns to 1 turn, especially with that E.P. Taylor turf course. So there are a lot of things changing for him. I will say, though, I agree with you in those races in the Dominion Day and the Seagroom Cup, not only the winner in both, but Stanley House is a respectable horse as well. And he's had to face them 2 times in a row, but he will need the pace help. So again, it's going to depend how fast they go early. And let's not forget, we've only seen him on the turf twice, both in sprints. They have not been by his best numbers, but again, at the beginning of his career.
Like the King, the number 4 has certainly made the rounds. He won the Jeff Ruby Stakes in 2021 and actually ran in the Kentucky Derby that year. And it was nice to see him get back to the winning ways last time out. First off a short layoff back at Woodbine in a one-turn mile. It was a nice score. It was only a third level allowance, but it's nice to know he does have the back class to call upon.
Yeah, 2022 and part of 2023 was a little rough for him, right? No winner's circle trips, a lot of minors, different things were tried. Could he go to the lead? Could he hang on? Could he close from off of it? They never really found it. I will say, looking at his last 2 wins, different surfaces, I like that he has won them in different fashions. And I really liked the trip that he was able to carve out last time. I think that was a good way for him to get the job done. I think at Gulfstream Park, when you go back to the race back in April there and you look at how it played out, the winner kind of sat a couple of lengths off the trip, the pace, excuse me, that being stat. The third place finisher was very close to it. I feel like it maybe worked against him in that spot, but most recently he sat the perfect trip and something like that. And here again, another horse that you might want to consider for underneath.
Maybe Secret Reserve, the 5, will show a little bit of stretch out speed in here. Not sure he's as fast as the 8 or the 6, but perhaps he can take up a tracking spot. He was wired last time out by the very good synthetic sprinter Patches O'Houlihan, so you understand why he's not in the bold venture he's going to try here instead of Patches again. The problem is he's already been beaten by several of these in the past.
He has, and they've tried in at least his 2 turf efforts different trips. I think if you go to the June 1st race, he was able to be more forward and simply second behind Cruden Bay, who was able to use the fractions that were set, that were honest, right? They were quick enough that horse was able to close. But then in the next turf outing, he just was flat throughout. So I have a tough time using him. I wonder if Leo Salas will have him a little bit more involved early, if they'll be chasing the pace, but I don't think that kind of running style work for him against this field.
After War Bomber won this race last year, I wonder if this was the major goal in 2024, and perhaps he's cycling back to his best in his 3rd start of the year. He's going to repeat the pattern that led to his victory in this race last year, coming off of a 2nd-place finish in the Connaught Cup. He battled hard in the stretch, as we saw, and he was up close to those fast fractions. I think a good trip is coming. I think he'll be right there turning for home, and I just respect his overall class and versatility.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that he takes the same sort of path that he did last year. And I think when you look at the Connaught Cup in 2023, it was a tough grip. Dream Shake was able to win that one. Lucky Score 3rd. He was a little bit further back. I thought his trip last time out, he just got caught in the end. Maybe he moved a little bit too early, or maybe it's just because he was closer to it and they took the chance when they did, but only missed by a neck. I think he's a type that he's going to find that extra furlong to be to his advantage. And he's got less experience coming into this race this year, right? He had a couple of more preps to get ready for this spot. And I don't mind that. I like that he was able to, put in a good effort last time out with that big figure.
When the 7 Coco Kaipu gets a little bit of pace, he can come with a kick, as we saw in his runner-up effort in the Prince of Wales last year. And last time out, they did stretch him out to 1 mile and an eighth on the turf, and he did get a little bit of pace help. He made a menacing bid. He flattened out just a little bit, but those were some strong back-class horses he was in against. The runner-up came right back to win a 3rd-level allowance on the turf with a 93 Beyer speed figure. I'm still trying to figure out what surface is his best. He's run well on all 3. I think it might be the synth.
Yeah, it is tough to say. He's kind of had everything thrown his way in his career. And you mentioned the Wilmette 3rd last time out. I thought it was a good effort. The winner, Public Sector, nothing to kind of snuff your head at and look at. Funny, he's a really nice horse. And I just wonder now, he's one, unlike others we've talked about, getting additional distance. He's going to cut back out of that effort. And maybe that puts him more in the mix. But as you've mentioned, it's tough to say. They've tried him in sprints. It took him a bit to graduate, and he's tried it all. And a lot of the time he's there. I just am not sure if this is also going to be just too tough of a group for him.
And here's the favorite, the 8, Philo de Ariana, coming off a triple-digit Beyer score in the Highlander, going 3/4 of a mile. The 5th 100-plus Beyer this horse has earned in his career. And as we watch the stretch run of the Highlander, Philo de Ariana got a very good trip in here. It's not like they were flying for this class. 23-3, 46-2. He's right on top of the pace setter. When it's time to go, he makes the lead and he goes about his business. I think he might have to go a little bit faster in this part of the race, in this quality of race, going a mile. He's the horse to beat. Whether you want to take 4 to 5 is a different story.
Talked about the fractions here. I mean, this is his slowest race that he's seen in 2024. And even I look at things more, not just the final times and trying to, they're different distances. It's more of the opening quarter and the half. I mean, his races were sub 22, 22 and 3, another sub 22, and they went 23 and 3. I mean, it was very slow. And sure, there was some moisture in the turf course. I just think everything sort of went his way last time out. He did get a flashy fig, though. It was a 101. I'm just a little concerned with his running style sometimes, right? In those faster races when he's faced horses such as Cogburn, XY Speed, Casa Creed, some of the times he's tried to chase the pace. That hasn't worked. And he's also tried to close from off of it. And he still hasn't been able to get the job done. If in here he is the controlling speed, we've seen him. He can be very dangerous on the front end. And I think with the outside post, I think Kazushi is going to go. I think Kazushi's a little bit of an aggressive rider as well. So he should be in the mix early on. It's just going to depend if he has any pressure. And I think that could get the best of him.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Grade 2 King Edward on King's Plate Saturday. We're both going to go with Cruden Bay in here. I just have a feeling the internal fractions of this race, they're going to get hot. And I think that could set things up for a closer. Cruden Bay fits the bill. I also do want to use a little bit of the 6 War Bomber just based on his overall consistency. I know he's going to give a fight.
Yeah, we have the same picks here in terms of the top 4 in terms of order, and I think we have the same thought process. I'm hoping that the fractions are quick, and I do think they will be. I think we're going to see a different ball game with Worthy 8. They weren't quick last time out. I think they're going to be quick, and the big thing is I think they're going to be quick for a mile. He's coming out of that 3/4 race. So if the pace is contested, I think Cruden Bay, we're going to be able to see maybe a similar performance to those 2 starts that we've seen in 2024. And Sophia has had very well-timed rides on that horse. So I think she'll be able to gauge where she needs to be early to get him rolling light.
We're going 1, 8, 6, and 2 in the Grade 2 King Edward, looking to see if Cruden Bay can make it 3 for 3 in 2024. Good luck.